Okay. Calling to order the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board Commission. It is Thursday, March sixth, 2005, and it's 5 PM at the City Hall in this one. May I have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So the motion carries. May I get an approval of the February 6th, 2025 minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Anybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that carries through. Motion carried, which brings us to open forum.
Has anyone in the history of Park and Rec meeting ever
There's been a couple.
been opposed to the agenda?
Oh.
Or
No.
the?
No, there's not usually amendments either.
We've had a couple of, we've had a couple additions.
Yeah,
Well, I
there's
can
just
see
a
change to
handful.
The agenda, but just
But-
being outright opposed.
You're gonna start causing problems.
Cool. Well, I will roll on to department reports. Thank you, Sherry. Just a couple of quick updates here. The rinks and warming house are closed for the season. We were open a total of 49 days. We tallied 1,348 users and $412 in concession sales. So, much better winter than last year. We got our new lawnmower delivered. So that's pretty exciting. We traded in the old one, got the new one, so we are gonna be ready for spring. Recreation wise, activities are open, registration's open for soccer, t-ball, and baseball, so that goes kind of till the end of the month here. Soccer gets going in April, and then t-ball and baseball get going in May. In February, I mail out sponsorship letters, and so that's for the baseball field banners, team sponsors, and then the dock sponsors. So I'm getting in a lot of paperwork every day, which is good. We also posted the bench sponsorship program that we kind of worked through over the fall, winter. So that has been posted on the website and Facebook to let people know that there's bench sponsorships at Between the Lakes Park. So we already have 2 committed and 1 more probably in the wings for that park, and there's 7 spaces available. Gull Lake Trail, we open bids February 26th. 4 bids were open. They received 7 and 3 were not read out loud for not having all of the documents that were required. And so the bids came in well under anticipated, and we're bringing that to City Council in March. So they'll be reviewing the bids, hopefully awarding the contract to the low bid, and then also reviewing construction services for the project. So we'll find out once it's awarded what a better start date time frame is on all of that. But the last section of Gull Lake Trail should be constructed this summer.
Nice.
Amber, when you say under, quite a bit under, like talking thousands of dollars or?
Like hundreds of thousands, which brings me to a later point.
Times are changing.
Yes, it's refreshing compared to the last round where it was a little nerve-wracking if it was going to be doable or not. So with this one, so our grant funding is for $855,000. We do get reimbursed for up to 20% professional services, so like construction observation. And so there's a possibility that we might have a couple $100,000 left over, which we could do something else to support the project. So I had a quick conversation with Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, their executive director, and she kind of gave me a little rundown, because my first thought was Pocket Park, if we could deal with some of the issues with the pavers and the retaining wall there. But she said that would not qualify. She talked about we can do things that address any ADA accesses and drainage with the original trail. We can add a parking lot, so we've previously talked about a parking lot at Nisswa Lake Park. That would take some consideration to maneuver around the butternut trees. We can add amenities, so things like wayfinding, kiosks, which we're doing a good chunk of the other part of the trail already with another grant. But we don't have one in the Pocket Park tunnel area. She said we could get bike equipment for programming. That we would want to think through, obviously, the long-term maintenance of some of these things and what that's all gonna cost. And, another idea that I had that I did not check in with her, if we can't do a parking lot or we don't want to do a parking lot, if we could pave the trail going into Nisswa Lake Park and potentially add a bathroom, if that would be an acceptable use of funds. But looking for ideas, thoughts, on potentially, I'd say $150,000 might be a safe-ish ballpark.
Those little stations, the bike repair stations.
You can do bike repair stations, doggy stations, benches. We don't have a lot of room in right of way to add benches. But yes, those would all count as trail amenities. We'd have to buy a lot of them to get to 150,000.
Can't buy a playground.
Yep. Yeah, so my first thought was Pocket Park, to deal with some of the issues that we're experiencing there, but it's not the trail. Supporting the trail, but it doesn't, yeah, she said, no.
Parking lot with a bathroom, those are always appreciated.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what kind of bathroom would we be talking about?
I would think something like what we put out at Between the Lakes and just a vault toilet.
Get rid of the rental.
So yeah, right now in Nisswa Lake Park, we do a porta potty rental for the summer from out fishing opener to MEA break. I don't know if that would qualify, but I think kind of a trailhead, making it more of a trailhead, add some wayfinding there. We'd have to talk to the DNR because we have an access through there.
So it's kind of a use it or lose it?
Yes.
To be spent this year.
Everything would have to be done by June 30th of 2026. So if something of the magnitude of a parking lot and things like that, we would need to get going because we don't have any plans of where to put it. Which is why I bring it up now, not no.
Where would the parking lot and the bathroom go exactly?
That would be what would need to be determined. I think it would be on the southeast side of Nisswa Lake Park as you come into the park.
Okay,
But there is butternut trees, which are a
Right.
protected species,
Right.
and I don't know all the rules, the buffer zone.
Touch the
So are you
butternut
talking
trees.
about the parking lot that's already there, just on the other side of the tunnel?
That's the DNRs. So we'd have to connect off their road, so they left the road for us to connect off of, that we'd have to wind in to Nisswa Lake Park and then build a parking lot off of that.
Okay.
So those are some of the options that they said that would potentially qualify. And then I'm like, well, if we don't want a parking lot or we can't do a parking lot because of the butternut tree, to see if it would be feasible to just pave the path in, because we do have some drainage issues there.
Yeah.
And then, if a bathroom might be in something that we'd be interested in.
Do we have a master plan of the Gull Lake Trail on the website? Anywhere? Or the Nisswa portion?
There's a master plan. It does include everything. It was drafted in 2015. I know I have a paper copy that I can scan in and put electronically.
But
There's
we generate-
information, there's word information on the
Yeah.
Nisswa portion.
Just as we generate, I guess, ideas, I'm a visual person, so it'd be kind of nice to see the trail as a whole.
Hmm.
And maybe I can email you.
I want to go back to,
Sorry.
can I go back to the bathroom real quick? So if I remember correctly, in the summer, the DNR brings down porta potties to that landing, don't they?
Yes,
So my thought is if we can use some monies for a bathroom, maybe we can approach the DNR to do a collaboration of a bathroom. So they won't have to bring in porta potties. I don't know how that'll work. Probably kind of crazy, but
Like that idea.
Yeah.
they have previously stated that they would be interested in sharing only a bathroom facility. Cause in previous plans, it was maybe a little bit more than a bathroom.
oh,
Certainly something to talk about.
because they wanted something more bigger than a vault. Correct?
Well, we don't have utilities over there either.
Right.
None over there?
No.
Oh, just a porta potty.
So, I mean, you can put a two stall
Yeah.
or a two
Two vaults.
vaults.
But they have some, I mean, some of those outdoor facilities they have, they're okay, you know. I like your idea and I think they might be more agreeable. The one thing the DNR doesn't like is they don't like to have the maintenance, so maybe if the city would be willing to do the maintenance on it,
Right.
you know.
You know, currently, right now, you have to do the maintenance with the one out at, Camp Lincoln Road. So, yeah, I just threw that out there. I just, you know me, I just throw things out there, see what,
Yeah.
their stick.
I thought, well, and I'm clearly wrong. I thought sewer ran down, what road is it?
Hazelwood.
Hazelwood. Am I wrong?
I believe it does, and then we would just,
Not to say it's not close to,
yeah,
That's
I don't know
Park,
what
but-
that would take to get it.
That would be very
all-
expensive to hook up to the sewer there.
just for one path.
Cause I don't think the DNR would say, yeah, rip up our parking lot. put in
There
a
are
sewer
like
there.
self-containing ones too, but,
Yeah.
so it sounds like maybe a bathroom. What are your thoughts on a parking lot at Nisswa Lake Park?
I like the idea of having kind of a trailhead and a location to park and with the kiosk and, I mean,
Yes.
I like that idea a lot.
Yes, I will, certainly find out some answers from planning and zoning, cause it is shoreland over there. And then obviously city council, what they're, maybe in support of, and then obviously what the grant would. But I'd rather go with an infrastructure versus, like bike equipment personally, just cause the ability to implement all of that. I would thought maybe if we could get like a counter of sorts, like a pedestrian bike counter, maybe they would be interested in that for all of the Go Lake Trail to be able to count users.
I guess the only thing to combat that or the other side of things, there is kind of already a trailhead that we're talking about, you know, right, kind of by the roundabout there,
Mm-hmm.
which is across, across 371. So they're separate, but it is already kind of like a trailhead with
Right.
parking lot and a bike. They've got a
Station.
station there. But I think
I know people that use the DNR landing as a trailhead too.
I do,
yeah, I
do too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do.
And in fact, probably more people would use that as a trailhead than the actual trailhead that's there, cause it's kind of hidden back there.
And with that, the use of that one, we need to get signs. We've talked about signs to route people
Yeah,
there.
if
The
you're
bike
not super familiar,
path.
you don't even know it's there, you can't see it from the road.
And that's part of the maps that we're working on for Nisswa section. We're gonna have a blown up insert to help get people from the Gull Lake Trail to the Paul Bunyan Trail.
How's that coming along, by the way, the signage?
For the other grant and the map,
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. We saw a first draft, and and that grant expires this June 30th. So we're gonna have another meeting here. It's the 4 communities. And so we will review that and then get the kiosks ordered, and they're just composite, very similar to the style that we already have, but a different material. So they're not wood. So it's a little less maintenance, and so everybody's gathering their quotes and getting a final version of the map, and there'll be mile markers that are both directions.
Nice.
Kiosks and then maps. And for Nisswa specifically, I asked for a blown up insert to get from Gully Trail to Paul Bunyan. That was the other thing I was gonna update you on the Gull Lake Trail. Okay, so certainly more to come, but I will get, I'll bring this to council at the March 18th, workshop. That one's March 18th, 5 PM. Just give them a heads up on all this, cause it's coming at that council meeting. And just thinking through, especially cause the parking lot would require more work to be able to get that constructed by the deadline.
So it's about 150,000, you said.
I think that's a safe guess. If we keep it under 175,000, we wouldn't have to do a sealed bid. But I think of something of that magnitude, we can't add on to the existing either.
Can I, just one more question? then.
Yep.
Does the Nisswa Park need a parking lot? I mean, do they need it paved? City Park?
No, Nisswa Lake Park does not have a parking lot.
If you drive down there, you have to park in the DNR owned property right now.
But I guess my question is, does the city want,
That's what I gotta ask them.
no, but that would be a city question, not a.
I would be foresee, me personally, just me, from the council's perspective, would like to see that. I would like to see a parking lot there. But I don't know how anybody else.
That was my question.
There was one in the original plan. And that was also, that whole design was made before we learned of the protected butternut trees. And so that plan has morphed over time, to what is there now, but a parking lot and a bathroom facility were in the original plan.
And we, we always run into that butternut. I don't know if you guys had a lot of butternut. Detroit Lakes, we got a lot up here. I'm not saying that they get cut down on my property, but you can't touch them. Unless you're a state entity, then yeah. But, and that's some of the things we've run into with certain things.
So I guess my question mark is, or my comment is, I don't know that you need to pave that park for bike purposes, but if the city said, hey, here's an opportunity for some money that we can justify to pave it, because the city would want it paved otherwise,
Mhm,
then that makes sense. Otherwise, I like your bathroom idea the best.
mhm.
Just,
Maybe 10 weeks. It wasn't terrible.
And the one thing we're finding out with paving now too is with the costs, it's almost quadrupled in the last few years.
Okay. So that's, I will run some of these ideas, through city council and then circle back with the commission to see what will be allowable uses. And then obviously as we get going through the project, we'll know how we're tracking and trending and if it's going according to plan. Awesome. Any questions on anything else happening on the day-to-day? Otherwise, we can move on to new business. We have the city park preliminary playground design. So in the packet, you guys received, a memo from me, and included in that was just kind of my summary from our January meeting that I passed on to the playground designers. Kind of giving our goals some simple direction. From that, we have their playground design. So the design shown all in has a cost of $679,723. So this is the first design and I don't think we have a full, we don't have a full budget, right? This is the 690,000 I gave them is based off of what we were using for fundraising purposes. You could probably tell by the design that they kept the warming house in there. That was the feedback that I heard from the commission, is that they wanted to keep the warming house for the time being, so they designed around the warming house. So kind of at this time, what I'm looking for is just general feedback to it. How do they do meeting our overall theme, the underlying themes? How do we like the layout of it? Play elements, if we want to get into that. Is anything in excess? What are we missing? Just some really high level feedback at this time. So I'll say the concepts are a little deceptive because it's green grass all the way around. And that's not the case in reality. So if we're looking over here, this is the ball field. This is home plate of the baseball field. This over by the merry-go-round is the parking lot. North of the swings would be the pickleball courts. Over here on the west side, that's your picnic shelters area, and then you can see the notch out to go around the warming house.
Yeah, the one, and this is not just the playground, but this is just the design as a whole. You know, we moved that playground closer to the ball field. I
Mhm.
know there's a backstop to the field, but it can easily, a foul ball can easily still go up
Yeah.
and over. And if we've got our 2 to 5-year-old playground that's directly behind the backstop, that might be an issue. And most of the games are played in the evening, but I mean, that playground is heavily used from sun up to sundown. I guess that would be one item. So.
I thought
whether-
about that same thing, and I've heard that general feedback from people that now the playground is closer for fall balls. And so I had that in my mind as well. Someone brought up the parking lot. Do we want them? I like that it's close to the bathroom because
Yeah.
this down here would be the bathroom, which
Yeah.
I've carried a kid across the park to get to the potty, and it's a long run. So I think that's a good thing. Behind the backstop takes planning. And then would you feel about that being in closer proximity to the parking lot?
I mean, I think I'd rather see it closer to the parking lot than the backstop, but
And then again, it's hard to tell because you can
know.
plant trees. It's not inserted into
yeah.
what's actually there.
So are you talking about moving it closer to the parking lot that way, further away? You know, how that, I'm assuming that 2 to 5, the small group that's right there, right? And that's.
This
next
is the 2 to
parking lot.
5 in the green bubble.
How close is it to the bathrooms?
Well, we haven't measured it out. We don't have a location.
So is there room to move it over closer to the bathrooms?
That would move into the plaza area. So you can shift it northwest into the picnic area
Mm.
to give more space. If there's enough space, you can plant a bunch of trees too.
Picnic area, meaning are you talking about to the east?
Yeah, east, northeast. Towards the softball field.
Is that footprint supposed to plan to stay the same? What's there?
Yes, the picnic shelters could be the one thing that's moving. The ball fields are staying the same. I have print copies if you guys want to see print copies too. If that's more helpful or not helpful.
Yeah, that would be great.
As far as the backstop goes with foul balls, there's also the higher nettings that you can put in.
Yep. So
Um,
finding a way to combat that.
right. So that would lower the possibility of the foul balls going into the playground. But yes, it is used.
Yeah, Mark, I was thinking the same thing. I guess I'd rather have that higher netting than have the parking lot closer to the playground, because I'd be more worried about kids running in the parking lot than I would
Yeah.
the
True.
football.
Also, with the improvements for the ball field, we wouldn't want to forget that it's an expanded bleacher with a press box is what the concept design shows. The overarching goal was to have a better spectator experience at the ball field. So we'd want to make sure that we're leaving space for that.
See, with the press box, was that our doing, or was that something that the Lightning was looking at?
Both. We host a lot of games there.
Okay,
And I think the overarching goal is a better spectator experience.
right. Would they be interested in coughing up some for that or not?
That hasn't been a focal point yet. I
Right,
just keep
okay.
in mind the feedback that they've given and making sure that we leave space. But the fencing and things like that are coming due for replacement within 10 years.
The press box, announcers box, would that be behind home plate or would that be somewhere else?
Nothing is planned,
No, I know.
but in the concept, it is behind home plate.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then the bleacher thing again.
Yes.
I just had to refresh my memory.
Yes,
on
so
that.
in the concept, it has bleachers wrapping around the back of home plate. If you guys couldn't tell, it's all poured in place based on the coloring, the greens and the blues. So poured in place is that rubber surface. This will not have wood chips as it's presented. You could see in my directions to them that I think based on budget, that's one of the biggest things that might change. But it's also one of the things that makes this incredibly inclusive.
I like the rubber surface
Mhm.
all around.
What is the difference?
In price, like $200,000. I know
So is
people have, people,
176 here?
yeah.
Okay.
People have had concerns about the safety of it. And I had a brief conversation with the playground company. The end product is, obviously environmentally, like, it's a permeable surface. And so like, I was concerned about the environment and then, just any residual effects for kids playing on it, touching it, things like that. And it's, during the process of laying it is a little more hazardous. And so there is in their costs, it's like fencing it off and having overnight security and making sure that, the area is secured, especially through some of the processes. So that was one of the questions and concerns I've heard from people. The playground company could obviously speak to it much better than me if we had additional questions on it. But I did ask them that kind of preliminary high level safety aspect for both humans and the environment.
What's the lifespan of that, of the rubber?
High use areas are gonna need to be repaired more frequently. And what I've learned is you can't color match either. Like you can get the same color, but it's never gonna be a perfect match. So, it's gonna fade. It's in the process of making it and mixing it. It's a mixture, so it's very hard to color match. I'd say areas like under swings around merry-go-rounds are gonna be a higher wear, especially, and those would probably be the areas that would need to be repaired more often.
So did they give you an idea about 5 years, 10 years?
I don't, not off the top of my head, I'm not recalling what, standard is. I will make a note.
I think, well, from my experience, under swings and like the bottom of the slide and like, camera set around merry-go-rounds, you know, you're probably looking at that 5 to 8 year mark, whereas just general areas, I mean, you can see upwards to 20. That isn't getting just the constant abuse.
Wood chips, if you have wood chips, you're supposed to be doing regular fluffing and redistributing. So there's a kind of a regular upkeep of wood chips.
So this is a solid rubber surface versus, I've seen some of the playgrounds that have these little rubber pellets.
Yeah, it wouldn't be pellets, it would be, I'll maybe say continuous. Um. I know things that we talked about, shade, seating, visibility. Also curious if you think there's too much of one type of play element, whether it's a spin, a swing, a slide, not enough of something. I personally would like to maybe see some sort of creative play, like a playhouse, like that could double as a quiet area. Just something for, they have a couple of elements in there. But I think that might be a nice addition. And then I think, people really love the climbing dome. And I think maybe having a climbing element, the landscape structures has a rock and a net. And that I thought might tie in to this theme pretty well.
That'd
They
be
do have one of the
fabulous.
nets on the 5 to 12-year-old playground as the approach up to this area. So those are the two things that I thought. There's like 4 different spinning apparatuses, so maybe one of those or could be swapped out with a climbing. And then, yeah, like I said, some sort of quiet, creative playhouse, cabin, beach shack for over here by the swings, wherever it fits. Those are two of my initial thoughts.
On that bid, there, for the 2 symbol communication posts, there was 2 of them. Is that for different ages?
That was, I did have a question on that one, if they're the same, if they're different, what exactly they are, if we want to swap out panels on them, if one's like. I know there's other places that have like emotion ones, and so just, I'm not quite sure exactly what the panel is, but there is one over here by the 5 to 12, and the other one was over here by the 2 to 5. So.
And there was also, on there somewhere about the fence. Was there something on there about a fence?
I think that's for construction.
Oh,
To-
that's
to
for when they're
block it
putting the
off, yeah.
rubber? Yeah, okay. All right.
On the quote here, there are some possible reductions. And that's stuff that we could potentially do in-house. So you see that it's the Sourcewell contract price. That's one of the reasons why we went the route we went, is to find a company through Sourcewell. But there's things like the dumpster, excavating, things like that. If any of that we wanted to bring in-house, it would reduce the cost on this project price. And then again, the chain link fence or something, it says temporary construction fence, lock gate, traffic control, cone signals, things like that, whatever we would need to secure it during construction. So there's the possibility of reducing up to 46,000 depending on what our capabilities are. And then I'll kind of just keep walking through it. So then you got the itemized list of everything, what it is, how many, what it costs. You got a couple custom pieces. And then when you get over here, this is the information that we would need for the grant. So for the grant, you have to have the fall heights. So they have different play elements, need a different depth of surfacing for safety requirements. And so that's all listed out here in the different zones. And then they also have like a buffer radius around them. And so these designs help highlight that, and that's what we would need for some information for the grants.
Mind if we go back to the bid,
Yep.
Amber? So is it standard to put in food and lodging in for the, on the bid?
Yes. Cause they would be traveling from out of town and need to have accommodations. For their certified installers.
Sleeping bags in the community center.
There's bathrooms in there.
Mhm.
There's bathrooms.
No shower. Well,
It's all right.
we're working on that.
Maybe they can stay at Mark's house.
Everybody gets one.
I have 3 empty bedrooms.
Everybody gets to host. Wouldn't that be something? So in general, do we think that this is meeting our objective?
I like how they're separated in the age groups.
Yes.
I like the colors, if we're gonna be in that kind of color tone. It's pleasing to the eye. It's not, it's not real busy. I like it that it's not busy, that it's pretty earth tones.
Yeah, you can certainly see the theme going through it with the green and then, so like each area has like, it's a lime green slide versus a dark green slide versus a blue to the water. So
Mhm.
every area they took like basically every color theme that we said we wanted and put it all in there. So I don't know if we like that they're different. If we like that they're the same, like we can get really into the weeds on some of this stuff. They have those little acorn accent chairs. The benches are in the playground versus outside the playground. Do we like that? Do we not like that? Some of them are log benches.
On the benches, and I'm looking at the little kids playground there in the green. Is there a bench not there, but behind that? Am I missing one behind that?
There's one, yes, there's one. So if we look on this design, you got a bench, a bench, a bench, a bench, and then, so what is that? 6 benches?
Benches.
And then this is a log and a log. So it can double as a seat. Or
Sure.
I think they call it a balance beam actually in their line item.
So as a grandpa with little kids, it's not a big deal, but I'd have one more bench and where the little kids are, I'd have one right there, yes.
There.
Because when the kids are playing, and I guess maybe it might just be me, other people, but I kind of like to keep an eye on where they are, and sometimes the other benches are filled up.
Okay.
You and I are the same way, yes.
Well, and that's something we've heard a lot is the benches and the visibility, and with the ramp, it's hard to get around in the current park, but with a low structure, you can't see under it very well.
Yeah, I mean, I think at base level, like, I think they've accomplished a pretty good park, I think. You make changes down the road too, like once we know we've got funding and if we're moving forward and, as far as picking pieces, but I think, I mean, in my opinion, as far as like the overall theme, the colors, I'd have maybe some comments on a couple things, but overall, I think they're accomplishing at base level, what we asked.
Yes, this is certainly not a one and done design. And we can definitely get into the weeds later on. One of my other thoughts is, so if you guys notice, I don't know if I can show you on this picture if I have to scroll. There's a slide that comes off here. So this is, I'm assuming that this black or the brown, the dark brown is the accessibility path. And then you have the ramp up to a platform, ramp to platform, ramp to platform. Off this platform here is a roller slide. And it has a transfer platform at the bottom, which is making it inclusive, right? So it's an accessible path. But they would have to go all the way back around to the ramp to get back on. And so that was one of my thoughts, is if there's a different way to maybe get a better access back up somehow. I don't know if that's too far, not too far. I think as we get further down the road, I would like to have a listening session or two with different families, professions, people that work with different abilities to get different perspective.
I know from my experience in the design end of things, height is always, like, we have a pretty flat site here.
Hmm.
So getting somebody in a wheelchair up in the air is so expensive.
Yes.
And in this design, you know, you have 3 ramps, 3 huge platforms to not give a whole lot of options. And that's a lot, most playgrounds out there, that is the case. And so you're gonna be spending, you know, $100,000 to give somebody in a wheelchair 2 options. And so when we get into the weeds, I think there's maybe some more creative options, even outside of playground equipment, that we could work with topography wise. If we can get kids up in the air before we even get them to, not up in the air, but work with the elevation that we have on site or the topography, whether it be through building it, but getting some elevation before they even get to playground equipment, because moving dirt's a lot cheaper than, you know,
Ramp.
than equipment. That would be the one thing I would say. And then going off of your point, which I think is a great point, yeah, it's a lot to get back around that playground, to then only get back to the 2 elements that they can even get to.
Yeah, so yes, all very good points. There's a lot of playgrounds that build in topography to help for that very reason.
And it is a very flat site.
It is extremely
not-
flat.
It's not as easy, like, that is gonna provide some challenges as far as just how it's built, but I think there are ways to do it.
Yeah, and then the other, obviously there's different swing options. So they have, okay, don't get dizzy, follow me. They have this hammock type swing. One of the swings is a 5 to 12 inclusive swing. And then the other swing, you have 1 bucket seat, and then it's a 2 to 5 inclusive swing. I did have a thought of maybe the bucket swing should be over on this side, closer to the 2 to 5 playground. Or put it in proximity to wherever the 2 to 5 playground lands, instead of that corner and that corner. So I don't know if we like the idea of 2 different age group inclusive swings, more buckets, less buckets. You can't have a bucket and a belt in the same bay. Just food for thought. Every time I look at this, I notice different things. But the this 4-person teeter totter, these are pretty fun, actually, in my opinion. They're great seats. But that's an inclusive element, as well as this we go round, merry-go-round. You see that you can wheel onto it, and then within that there's benches.
That's a pretty cool thing.
That is the one thing my daughter wants, and she said we need to buy it all, and she wants it. Can't wait to play on it this summer.
You know, have we maxed out our playground footprint? for, is there room for expansion? It's just hard to tell without seeing it, you know, on the master plan.
We
but-
gave them a 10,000 square foot. It's comparable to what we have now.
Okay.
It's, they did chunk out the corner there for the, keeping the warming house.
Yeah.
So that probably reduced it, cause I gave the 10,000 including
Here, but to
like what was
the
on the
to
concept
the
design.
East, cause, or east or to the north, cause the parking lot comes pretty close up to it, doesn't it, on the west?
Yeah, in the concept, I keep looking over there on the wall. We did build in more of a drop off zone, so there's more space,
Okay.
between the concrete space between the playground and the drive lane. And then again, if we wanted to morph it, you could push it east, northeast into the picnic area. But to the north is where so this is where we're getting the whole park designed.
Mhm.
So we know exactly where pickleball goes, to exactly where the playground, to exactly where the warming house, how much space we need for the bleachers. But yes, it's a 10,000 square foot, which is comparable to existing, and that is the size on the survey, the concept design to the survey.
Okay.
So they used those documents that the engineer provided us in January, they used those shape files to build this.
And would there still be the basketball court there?
No, the basketball hoops would move into the hockey rink. And so, when that gets built. Yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up real quick. So this was what we looked at in January, where you have in the red is what's existing infrastructure. And you
Okay.
can see underneath, so like the edge of the parking lot stays the same. But you're taking out some of the green space and
Sure.
shifting.
Yeah, I guess the only, if the community or the city decided to get rid of the warming house, I guess there'd maybe be a little room to the east, but for the most part, it's maxed out.
Unless you go this way, above the warming house, and then you're moving towards the potential shelter,
Yeah.
and then you're getting to the left foul line.
Yeah.
So no, it does not have to be a rectangle. The playground container is the one thing that can change shape pretty easily.
Oh, I mean, I went over and walked that area, on Sunday and just from my experience, I'm not been here as long as the rest of you, but I very rarely see a lot of people sitting in that picnic area. Now, I don't know how, maybe that gets used more than I'm aware of, but that would be an area, in my opinion, that you could infringe upon.
The picnic table or the picnic area in between the ball field to the east and the existing playground?
They get used. People will do like birthday parties or they'll grill out, at between some games, I hear people talking about wanting double headers or they're quick eating their Subway before the game. So they definitely get used. They are showing their wear and could be I mean, if we're going all in on this, right, we don't need to keep.
Just a Nisswa theme.
But it's not that they couldn't move. So if we have a better vision, if we need the space to make room for the playground, to keep the things like I think all options are still on the table at this point. But you got the basketball court here, Bruce, to your question. So this is where the existing basketball court is, which would be under the proposed pickleball tennis court area.
That basketball court gets used a lot.
Yes.
It's, yeah.
So if you just did the playground, no, it might not be impacted completely with the playground portion, but yes to the pickleball tennis.
I mean, I think at least from like a budgeting standpoint and a base level, like. I mean, if we swapped out some equipment or elements or changed this or that, I still think we'd be within that budget. And there's ways to go down from that budget too, especially when we look at surfacing. But, so I guess moving forward, just based on this, I'd feel good. Being that we're not gonna. I can't see us adding $100,000 to this playground. I mean, you could pretty easily, but I mean, I don't think we need to. So from like a budgeting standpoint and just understanding what it takes for an inclusive kind of more destination type playground in that space, I feel like this is at least a good direction.
At least we know what we can get for that price tag
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So if we need to bring it up,
Yeah.
or if we have opportunity to bring it down or need to bring it down, I think it helps provide a frame of reference and kind of an anchor to a direction to go, of what you get for your money.
Mm-hmm.
Bench donate sponsors for them.
Yes, we can certainly have bench sponsorships. I don't know how that works with Port in Place and if it has to be at the same time or later or not in the playground. That would take research on my end.
At what point would you bring this to the public to have them give input?
Not sure on a timeline. So the only thing I can definitively say is March 18th at 5 p.m. there will be a workshop with City Council. Everyone's invited. This will be one of the topics. I plan to also get some direction on community center improvements that we talked about last month. So community center, city park, the Gull Lake Trail, the opposite problem of how do we spend more money.
March 18th?
March 18th at 5 p.m.
And it's open to the.
It's open to the
community.
public. It will be on YouTube. It is a council workshop. And City Park will be a big piece of it. And then also trying to get a little bit of feedback on Pocket Park and direction of, the boulder walls there. So those are the kind of the four main things that I'm hoping to get direction on. Not only is it city park planning, but also, as we've discussed, the interim operation. Other questions and thoughts? Certainly, again, not the last discussion on playground design, but I think it's nice to have a visual representation at
Mhm.
this point, and we will get into the weeds, I think, probably once we have more information. But like I said, I think bringing it, especially having some listening groups too, before we get to kind of a, Further down the road.
Apologize, because you guys probably already know this answer, but, is this like, I heard you mention grants, is this a grant we write to, the city does to get this money, or?
that was one avenue we were pursuing. We were trying to raise 600,000 by February 1st, which we did not get, so we are not able to apply for that grant. I have talked to the Lions. Lions Internationals has an inclusive playground grant, so that is very much on our radar, for a possible partnership with them. And so, yes, grants are an opportunity. It's just a matter of getting the required information in some cases and making sure that we have the direction from city council.
And that DNR grant, when is the next time that comes up that you have to have that in by?
Be
What's the deadline?
next spring,
Year from now.
year from now. It's one time a year.
Yeah. And I know, I wanna say the Kiwanis has a inclusive grant as well. I think they might be exclusive with like a certain playground company. I want to say it's Miracle.
Hmm.
But I could be wrong. Is the council expecting anything from us at this time?
Not you guys.
We're expecting, well,
Certainly having you guys there as people that, one, your community members, two, you've been around, you've been through these dialogues, you know some more of the ins and outs. You all have very valuable perspective, but no, you're not expected to talk or present. That would be me.
But
So I'm hoping I'm advocating appropriately, and if you guys need to jump in or.
Amber and I had a discussion, because parks with everything coming up got put on the back burner. So we had a sit down with our new mayor, said, this commission needs direction. We need to address this. So we talked with her, and that's why we're having this workshop. So it's to present, here we are. Where does the council want to go?
yeah. I think that's great.
Mhm.
I plan to be there.
Well, I would appreciate if you can be there, be there.
What day of the week is?
It's a Tuesday.
Okay.
You can stay for council meeting after too.
Follow up on Paul's question. So we can be there, but does the council want feedback? That would be my question.
I do. I think as Amber presents it and goes and when questions come up, if you want to interject, you're more than welcome to. You know how these things go,
Mhm.
but yes,
Well, that's why I'm asking the question, because sometimes the feedback isn't appreciated. That's why I'm asking. And I'm not saying you guys, I'm saying in general, when I've been to some of these meetings in other cities, the feedback isn't been appreciated.
in my opinion, we're like, good feedback, not combative.
Yes, right.
And you and I both know how some of these things go. I mean, not only here, but other areas. Because there is a concern. Where are we going? How are we gonna go? When are we gonna get there? Because you can't put this on the back burner forever, and we kind of stress that to the mayor. So,
Well, I assume because you guys are planning this out, that you want us, the board there in the community, you want some feedback. The city council wants feedback.
well, as Amber will present it and it goes,
Or you just.
I'm
looking
trying
for
to be
bodies?
very clear in my questions, to ask direct questions to help us move things forward.
Mhm.
So we've had a lot more in-depth dialogue on things, and I'm trying to convey those themes through the presentation, but be very specific, because 2 hours is gonna fly by. And be very specific and direct in what I need answered to help me operationally, to help me plan for capital, to help us plan the park, to just figure out the timing and the priorities.
Can you
But-
give us an example of one question for them that you're gonna ask that's directly to them?
I am
Maybe-
working on it, but like one of the biggest things is the funding source, right? So we've gone kind of down this organic word of mouth path on fundraising. Do you what fundraising? So like that's one avenue. And then local option sales tax. And then if there's other things, so like getting answers on some of these. And then subsequent questions like, okay, you want to have a fundraising, we'll call it committee. What are the steps then? So I kind of have like the question and then like the questions.
What are the rules to that?
Correct.
And
So like I literally am thinking flow charts, like my whole brain is just a spider web of flow charts, if this, then that. And because I think there's multiple things that can happen simultaneously, right? And then at the same time, what are we doing in the moment operationally? And so a lot of that is tied to budgets and what we're doing with the budgets. So yes, hopefully we get some better direction, some food for thought. Hopefully we get everybody up to speed on the project that's new. Hopefully council can work on building consensus and give us maybe a next step or two. But again, it's not gonna be decided in a 2-hour meeting.
But the public itself has communicated to the council that they would like a new playground. Has that really been communicated?
Well,
Well,
I would say yes. We went through the master planning process. And 2, the existing playground, it's at the end of life. So that is dictating, in some sense, a timeline. And like anything, there is mixed opinion on every amenity within the park.
Yeah, so at the beginning, the phase one, now correct me if I'm wrong on this, Amber, was the pickleball courts and the playground were gonna be in one phase.
Correct.
That's where it was a couple years ago.
That's how we broke it down for fundraising, yes.
Mhm. What do you mean?
A large donation to a hockey arena would change things really quickly.
I view it as the end goal is to improve the hockey rink, address the playground, and then incorporate designated pickleball.
Yeah, and
That's the goal.
And I'm
That's
just-
the overarching feedback I've heard
And I'm just
based on
gonna
our
go-
master
I'm
plan.
just gonna go back to where we were when we asked the community what they want. The community wanted the playground and the pickleball courts were the number one.
Community wants a beach and a splash pad. That was 1 and 2. Pickleball came in at 3. Most used were the playground and trails. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, they want a
They
beach.
wanted a
That's number
beach.
1. It's been number 1 on multiple surveys.
But the pickleball court was a high priority for the adults.
Pickleball was, yeah, came in at number 3 on desired amenities after a beach and a splash pad. Fact check.
Amber, thank you for your continuous work on all this. 'Cause
Yes.
it's been a slow process, but you continue to work hard on it, so we appreciate it.
Thank you. I know Sherry and I talked yesterday and sometimes it feels like we're just spinning our wheels, but I appreciate you guys continuing to show up, continuing to ask questions, continuing to give perspective, share feedback from the community. And these projects take a long time. So I thank everyone for showing up because you don't always quite see the reward immediately. And it goes through a lot of rounds of discussions and revisions. So, other final thoughts and things. Okay, next meeting would be April 3rd. I will send you guys some email updates, just if there's anything in the interim. But again, March 18th is the next meeting where we're kind of going with council, hoping to get some directions there. And after that, maybe we'll reconvene and see what we need to do to keep going based off of that. So,
So I guess that brings us to adjournment.
yes, and then I mentioned to you guys that we may have a seat vacancy coming up, so as that comes, I will, keep you posted as the timeline once that becomes official. Yes, adjournment.
May I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes. So moved.
All those in favor?
Right.
All those opposed?